Good evening, everyone. This is Kelly Cushing. So tonight, I guess it's not today, it's tonight. We are having our Artist of the Week, meet with the Artist of the Week, Erin Caskey. So Erin is here. She's from Abbotsford, BC, born in White Rock. She has done her BFA at Fraser Valley University.
University of
UFB.
Valley.
I always forget the initials. Anyway, so you've had art in your life all your life. You mostly concentrate on mixed media. I know you have some abstracts and anime instances on the Art Hive website. You do painting, lino printing, photography, and you say you're a process artist. Can you explain that one for me? I came across that. I'm like, I need some clarification.
So the way a process artist was, sorry, I'm opening Twizzlers. The way a process artist was explained to me was that it's not the end result, it's the process of how you get there that matters.
And
It's
so
kind of like the journey.
okay. So do you have a plan in place when you start, or do you?
No.
Okay.
I'm usually once I get inspired by something, if I get inspired by something, I usually like try to just go with the idea from yeah. I like flow through different avenues.
Okay.
It's hard to
Okay, that makes sense to me.
I might like explain it better later on when I talk about a specific piece I'm doing right now.
Right. Okay. So did I miss anything in your introduction? Anything about you that you want to fill in?
Oh, that's good.
That's good. Okay, awesome. So I already kind of introduced yourself. So can you tell us a little bit about your artistic journey and what led you to become an artist?
So my artistic journey is kind of all over the place, to be honest. But I've always felt like that's what I wanted to do or was meant to be on the path, I guess, that I was meant to be on. So it's why doing anything else always felt kind of off, like it was out of connection to where I was meant to go, I guess.
Right.
I don't know if that
Well,
makes sense.
that's a pretty good awareness though, like especially when you're a younger woman, younger girl. Is that a cat that just flew by?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, you live with your two cats still?
we have two cats.
Nice.
I
So
have a 12-year-old cat named Kismet and a black 2.5-year-old cat named Biz.
nice. So you talk a little bit about in your introduction on the website about a fellow named Fred.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk to Fred because he seems like he was an important part of your journey to be an artist.
So definitely Fred played a large part in my becoming an artist because I have a firm belief that animals and people come into your life that are kind of like meant to be there, or I guess fated to be there. And so it was kind of a roundabout way. So I didn't know of Fred first. I knew of his wife first because at the Safeway where I was working, his wife was actually the branch manager at the Bank of Montreal kiosk in the Safeway there.
Okay.
And then in a really funny way, like once they closed that kiosk and got rid of it, obviously like she left, but then I was like, my mom's always like, you need to get out, you need to go like volunteer somewhere or whatever. So funnily enough, I started volunteering at the SPCA in Surrey. This is like in 2009. That location is no longer there. And when I started, right before I started volunteering there, she'd actually been hired on as the branch manager for that SPCA location. And so like I had more interactions with her than him. like he was kind of like around. He was the maintenance man. Like he would just come in and do like odd jobs around the place. I'd never actually, I think, physically met him at that point. And then once so I volunteered at that SPCA for 3 years. And then in 2012, it closed permanently to move to another location. And after that, I don't know why, like I was friends with her on Facebook, and I don't know how it came up or whatever, but she came across some of my artwork. And I guess was showing him. And he was an artist, and he had actually at that time a private art group that he was running, mostly older individuals. I think when I joined was retired, and at the time I was like in my late 20s, early 30s, so I think I was like the youngest person there. And I remember leaving work one day, and he approached me, and he was like, I saw your work, I think you're really talented. He's like, I have this private art group. He was like, would you be interested in joining? He's like, we meet every Wednesday at like one of the members' house. And so I was like, sure, because he'd come to me at a time where I kind of like felt like art didn't have a large place in my life, I guess. So like I pretty much stopped being creative unless somebody asked me. Like if a friend came up to me and was like, hey, like can you do this or do that, I'd be like, okay. But I pretty much primarily stopped being creative on my own. I think mostly because like just the day-to-day grind of like being an adult and the responsibilities that come along with that kind of got slapped in the face. And I just like didn't have the energy, it was taking me so much. I now know, like, I guess, I don't know if I was recently diagnosed as being neurodivergent. So I think that might have played a part in it, but I was just so focused on like trying to not like live life, but get through the grind of like working full time and like, things like that, that, I was just exhausted all the time. Like I would just go home and I wouldn't do anything. I just watch TV. I didn't have any hobbies or anything. So that
sounds like it came to in the right time, eh?
Yeah. And so like, as part of his art group, like it was a very, I guess, more informal educational experience. Because like each week there was like a subject, and he would plan for that subject, and like at the end of that week we would decide for the next week what we wanted to do. And like he did assign like homework like for the next week, but I very rarely ever did it because there's no consequences or like, like, so yeah, so he kind of came into my life at I think a very pivotal point. And he just basically, even then, like I was using these gatherings for more of like a social thing rather than like an art thing, just to be around people and be around other artists. And he was really ultimately the one. I just remember us having a conversation one day where we were sitting down and he was like, what do you want to do? Because he's like, do you want to be an artist? Like, where do you want your life? What path do you want your life to go down? Because he was like, you're doing so many things right now. You have so many labels. He's like, at that time, like I had started to scale back my hours at Safeway. And I was also working another job as a background extra, which in itself is creative, but in a different way. But he was like, you're a background extra and you're an artist and, like you're a cashier. And he was like, you just need to like get rid of all these extra labels and just decide what you want to do.
Good guy to have walk into your room or into your space, like the straight shooter, and ask you the hard questions.
And so like this isn't something that I was thinking about this today about whether I should talk about this, because it's not really something that he advertised per se, but he was wealthy. Like he didn't talk about it, but like he didn't flaunt it. He didn't talk about it. Like he was actually one of those people where if you looked at him, you would never know that he had money, because, you know, like he would walk bare feet and his toenails wouldn't be clipped, or like he had like Einstein hair where his hair was like just frizzy all over the place, you know, like he would walk, like he would wear like obviously pants with suspenders, but then his shirt would be like untucked, you know, but like he said that he would help me figure it out. And he was like, he's like, so this kind of happened towards right before I decided to go back to school. But he had said that, you know, if like, he's like, in order to give you some breathing room to decide like what path you want to take or where you want your life to go, he was like, I will give you a conditional gift for 6 months of an extra $200 a month. So he's like, you don't have to worry about money or like going back to work full time. And he's like, at the end of that 6 months, he was like, I want you to know like what you want to do. And so I had that at that point, I was like, I want to go back to school. Like, I grew up in a family where art wasn't supported, you know, like, well, I guess it was like art, being creative, having a career in the arts wasn't a financially, my parent didn't view it as a financially viable solution. So they were pushing me really hard to like do other things. And then just like have art as like a hobby. And so it never occurred to me when I like left high school or anything that I could like pursue the arts as school. So I like pursued everything else because I was like trying to do what was expected of me with minimal success. And so I finally thought, like, with him talking to me about it, and at the time we were also in talks with, he said if I decided to go back to school, we would work out a plan where he would help me with my tuition costs and stuff like that. But he was ultimately the reason why I decided to go back to school, because I was like, I often think to myself, like, if people ever ask me like why I went back to school, I'm like, do you want the polite answer, like the politically correct answer, or not? Because the not one is that I finally decided that I was going to do what makes me happy, even though I now have a mountain of debt, and screw everyone else, basically. So yeah, so I ended up deciding to go back to school. I got most of the other general credits out of the way, but I needed to like upgrade some. I needed like qualifying studies. So I submitted to be part of the program, but before I could get in, I had to take these extra classes. So I've been accepted into the university. Unfortunately, before I could tell him that I had been accepted and had decided to go back to school, he died. So yeah, I think he had congestive heart failure, which I think was something that he knew about, but him being who he was, he just decided that he wanted to go out. I think he knew about it, but he didn't want the doctors to control or prolong his life. Because
I'm sorry for your loss, because he sounds like a big part of your life, for sure.
Yeah, so like, Yeah, so when I got the call, apparently the day before he'd been sick, like sick.
Mm.
He wasn't feeling well and he was having trouble breathing, and his family was like, you need to go to the hospital. And he actually didn't want to go. But finally his family, his family said, no, we're gonna make you go. And they took him and he died the next day.
Right.
So yeah, so he was ultimately the one that,
Got you going.
got me going again. Yeah.
Sounds like, wow, pivotal guy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So how long after that did you start UFE?
So I pretty much started UFE. Um, I think it was like the next month or something, the next month or two. So it was very soon.
Right. So how did you decide on kind of, I mean, you said you've been artistic all your life. How did you decide kind of which path you wanted to go down, or was that something you kind of figured out as you went through school, or kind
Um,
of,
well, I still haven't, well, I've always loved animation. So like, excuse me. Like, I'm like, when I was in school, like I was mostly self-taught.
Hmm.
So a lot of my stuff came from my imagination. So it was like I would draw dragons or unicorns or pigs. I mostly like stayed away from drawing humans. I never really had an interest in the figure per se.
Hmm.
But until I started watching Sailor Moon, and that was basically my like introduction into like animation. And then I would start to mimic drawing Sailor Moon, like the olden days where you'd put your onion paper onto the TV and you trace your figures after you pause it.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, so I've always had this kind of like love of animation.
that's cool. So are those kind of the artistic movements that kind of inspire you? Is the anime or?
Yeah. So yes, it was only after going through university that I was really introduced to other versions, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do or what kind of artist I wanted to be per se. So I didn't really have an opportunity to experiment and do a bunch of different things until or encouraged even. Sorry, my cat. I don't know why, like he could just go under the table and jump up onto the window seat from the window. I don't know why he has to jump across me, but he's difficult.
Superstar. He wants to be on camera, maybe.
Yeah. And thinking about it. So like, yeah, so like it was only through university that I really got the chance or opportunity to like experiment with different art forms.
Right. That makes sense. Usually in university, you have assignments and you have to follow their particular protocols and stuff. So anyway, all you guys watching, if you have any questions for Erin, you can just either write them in the chat, and then when we're kind of at the end, I'll open up the floor for you guys to ask her questions directly. So I just wanted to put that out there. So can you talk about your creative process from idea to you finished artwork?
Well, I was thinking about this. That's kind of difficult because um it's different for every artwork, I guess. So and also depends on what I'm doing, because I have such different, I guess, ways of doing things depending on what I'm doing. So like for instance, my acrylic paintings, um sorry, my acrylic paintings, get on, my cat's just being a pain. My acrylic paintings, like when I get I like paint with objects. So like once I get inspiration to paint with an object, I'll I'll just do it until it's finished. Whereas like now that I've been doing my cutout card type idea or things like that, once I get an inspiration, whether it's like a specific character or like a specific series, like I'll go research it depending, and then I'll Google images of the character for reference, for like the figure reference, and then I'll like try to find a background image that like from what I'm looking for that works best, I guess, with that figure.
When you're using objects, like how do you come up with the object? Like, does it just pop out? Like you're looking at something, it just goes, oh, I should make an art.
Well, it's more like, oh, what will the marks look like across the painting? So like the first time I started doing that was for a series in when I was in school. And I was like, okay, I'm going to use like a USB cable. I had like a USB charging cable from an old iPad that wasn't working anymore. So I just like dipped it in the paint and then like just like went like this across the canvas. So yeah. I think somebody has a question.
Just kind of things. Oh yeah, Carol was asking, do you say you paint with objects? You mean painting with sticks or cloth or something else?
So like some of the objects that I've used when because in that instance I'm like an abstract painter. So like I've used like a USB charging cable. I've used like oral syringes, bottle cap lids, pop cans. One painting I did was with spice jars. I've used marbles. I've used toy cars. I did one where I went to the dollar store and I got like just a cheap looking plastic water guns. And I used those. And then and then like one I used like I have anxiety. So I had some extra, like I always have like medication bottles. So I like would put the paint and the resin in the medication bottle and then just tip it over type of thing.
Yeah, that one's on the art hive. You have it up on the art hive. We'll talk about that in a minute though. Cool. So how do you stay inspired and motivated to create?
This is difficult. It's a bit difficult because I was actually recently kind of talking to a professor about this. Because I was like, when you're in university, or like taking art classes, something that they'll often say is like, don't wait for inspiration to come to you, just like continue to be creative and eventually like something will come. But it's a struggle because I don't have the motivation to like necessarily be creative on my own unless I have that initial spark of inspiration. It's a struggle on an ongoing basis for me to like remain constantly creative, because I have to feel that initial spark to have the external like motivation to finish something. Otherwise I'm just like not as happy with the end result.
Right. I guess. Do you get stuck? Like sometimes, when you start something, like I know when I even taking photographs, sometimes I'm like, it's not the photography part, it's the doing all the stuff on Photoshop later. It's like, I don't want to do it. Do you kind of get stuck maybe in a place where you're like, oh, I don't even know what to do?
Yeah. So I recently was actually like, okay, so one of my, I guess, part-time jobs is I model as for the art students at UFE for the art classes. Right. And I have this, I guess, I've been doing this project and thank God my friend is patient. I constantly am like, thank you for letting me do what I want to do, like, because so this kind of ties into some other things I was going to talk about, but I've been doing this project for a friend, and we normally exchange services, like she crochets me something and then in return I'll do artwork for her.
Right.
And so like last year I came up with this idea, and she crocheted me some items and I've been doing some cards for her. And the last card was a Sailor Moon card, and the other three are done. But I was like, I was looking in my cards, like I will glue an acetate paper, which is clear, behind the image, right, to protect the inside image. But then when I was like Googling, because I've only been getting my sheets from like Michael's, and I was like Googling where to get these sheets, and I came across that they sell, you can find 5x7, it's like 0.001 millimeter or 4 millimeter plexiglass sheets. And so I was like, that would be perfect because it's just the right size of my card. I don't have to go to the extra effort to cut it down, which you do in the acetate sheets. And then I'm like, and then my cuts are usually horrible because as an artist, I can't cut a straight line without all these jagged edges, and then usually just awful. And so like, I was like, but what if I like, and this is how my process works, because my mind is like pew pew pew. And so like I was like, what if I was like, okay, I experiment with what you wanted me to do, basically, which touches on like how important is experimentation and exploration to you in your work, and is very important. So I was like, I'm like, do you mind if instead of making you a card, I just like put the images straight onto plexiglass? And she was like, sure, whatever. Just like, everything's good. And I was like, okay.
Oh.
And so like I did that. But then in my, I guess, frenzy, or like my, like, I wasn't thinking about like the size. So I'll give an example. I think I have an example. It's not like finished. I was doing it for my coworker as a gift, which it never got finished actually. But I'll use it as an example. So it's like something like that. I don't know if you
That's cool. And that's on the plexiglass.
Yeah. So like, but I have the figure, like the full like plexiglass. And then so I had and then so I was like, wait, I was like, now like, I was like, what do I do with the background? Because like it's so big that it takes up the full length of the plexiglass, and how am I going to do the background? And I was like getting super frustrated because I was Googling backgrounds and I just couldn't find one that I was like happy with. And so like after one of my modeling sessions, I flagged down the Professor Shell, and I was talking to her, and I was like, I'm like, what suggestions would you have? Because I was like, this is what I'm doing. I showed her an image. I said, like, I'm not particularly feeling very inspired right now. I'm getting really frustrated, like I said, because I had her for one of my teachers when I went through uni. And I said, like, one of the things a lot of the professors say is like, don't go by inspiration and, this and that. And I was like, I get more frustrated when I'm not being inspired, and I'm less likely to be happy, and I don't know what to do. And so like, what I want to talk to you is like, do you have any suggestions on how I should get around it like this? And she was like, well, she's like, I would say at the time what I was thinking of doing is yeah, I can definitely show some of my artwork. Just a minute. So she was like, you have to do what works for you. She's like, at the time she said it looks like the images are already quite complicated, so she was like, you might just want to like get rid of the background, you know. So I was like, okay. So I was thinking about it. Oh, I think I was modeling twice for her that day. So that was in the morning. So then I went back in the afternoon and I'm like posing, I'm doing the pose, and then I'm just like thinking about it.
Right.
And so like in thinking about it, I just came up with another idea that I thought would work better. And it's like now evolved into something completely different, which I'll show you. But then I went back to my friend and I was asking her about it. I was like, do you want a background or like and she was like, she's like, I'll be happy with whatever. You just, if you think it would look good. And I was like, okay. So, and then I was recently telling her, I was like, yeah, it's like evolved into almost this diorama now. And I hope you're okay with that. And she was like, I'm getting cool artwork. So,
Yeah, right.
okay.
So now you got to show us what your background is that you came up
Okay.
with.
So
Can't leave us hanging.
yeah, I have to go get it. So,
Holy moly.
yeah. So,
So
yeah.
the plexiglass go right at the beginning at the front, or does it go inside of it?
So like, yeah, the plexiglass is there. It's like
Oh,
all glued together.
okay. So that goes with the fox.
Pardon?
That will go with the fox thing. Will that go
With the
with
what?
the? Didn't you show us a fox? Like it was a fox.
Oh, okay.
Is
So
that
I'm
part of it?
doing, no, this is something
Oh,
completely different. These are for two
oh,
different people. So
oh, okay. Sorry, I
this
misunderstood.
was originally supposed to be my coworker's Christmas gift.
Oh,
Because she really liked Five Nights at Freddy and Foxy was her favorite character. But I think something I came to realize as an artist and just for myself is I need to only work on one project at a time
mm,
because even when I'm frustrated, I get like if I move away from the other project to work on something else, then I get consumed by that other project. And then the one that I should be working on just kind of like gets put to the back burner
right.
because I have my friend's thing that I'm doing. I'm trying to do something as a thank you for my stepdad. And then I was doing my coworker's Christmas gift.
Mm.
And so like now none of them are finished. So now like, yeah.
Now one has to have a priority and then finish
Yeah.
it. Move
So
on.
my mom was recently asking me, she's like, did you finish your Sean's thing? He's my stepdad. And I was like, no, I'm like, my friend, I'd started doing that first. So I'm like, that's a priority now because, you know, that came first. And
Right.
so, yeah.
So is that kind of how your artwork has progressed over time? It sounds like you came from university and then you started doing anime and then you started doing the three-dimensional or multi-dimensional kind of.
Well, this still has to do with anime because this is still going to have Sailor Moon in it. This is just
Okay,
like the background.
right. But you have different levels of it now, not just a flat print or
Yeah. So that's like, because like my cards originally, I wanted to give like the perspective of 3D,
mhm,
rather than having to do it 3D. So I guess it's still kind of there.
right. So is that how your artwork has progressed over time, do you feel, or
Yeah, I think so.
yeah? And how do you see it going in the future? Like kind of, are you going down that same path or do you see something?
I'm not really good at I'm not like I live in the present and I'm not really good at like looking into the future or like saying where I'll be in the future. So I can't really say.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's good to live in the present. Is there anything though you'd want to try maybe, or you're good where you're at right now?
Uh no. I just like I was thinking of mediums and stuff like that. And I'm like literally I just go wherever. So like if I feel inspired to paint with acrylics, I do abstracts. At one point I was like, I want to my a friend of mine for a gift had gotten me some oil paints. So I was like, I'm going to learn oil. So then I was like learning oil paints. And then, yeah.
You just as it comes up kind of thing.
So it's just kind of like as it comes up.
Well, so are you doing any upcoming projects or exhibitions? And are you
I
excited about
don't
it?
have any exhibitions. I didn't really, to be honest, like the only time I was really a part of exhibitions was when I was in school.
Mm.
But so nothing really kind of on that end planned. And then projects, I'm just working on my friend's project right now.
Right. And you've been showing some of your work though at where you work, haven't you? Or
Yes. So one of the, I don't think on my end, it's only showing that there are 5 people. I'd hope that she would come on. As I had actually invited her. So most of the people that when I was thinking about like people who'd helped me my journey, I invited them to be here. So it looks like they didn't log on, which is kind of sad. As from my end, it's only showing we have 5 people, but
you just 5 people.
pardon?
Yeah, I just see 5 people as well.
So like she is like last year, she was just like, you need to put some of your stuff in. I work in a museum and a gift shop. And so like she was like, you need to have some stuff ready to put in the gift shop. And so I was like, okay. I was like, well, I don't have anything ready currently. And I was like, I struggle with external motivation to get stuff done on my own. So I was like, I need somebody else to tell me, okay, we're going to hold you accountable, basically.
Right.
And so she was like, okay, she's like, I'll do that. So she's like, I want you to have 5 cards done in 2 weeks.
Well,
And I was like, okay. So I've been initially, and that kind of led me into working with the medium that I'm working with right now, which is paint pens, because because at the time I was like, I really like pastels. So I did some images in pastel. And then I had those printed, and those images, those cards are in the gift shop currently, and they're on the website. But she was like, I don't feel like with the pastels, especially chalk pastels, that the colors like pop,
right.
are vibrant. So she was like, here's some of my paint pens. Why don't you like experiment by going over the image? Like we printed them out on the museum printers upstairs in the offices. And she gave me her assorted paint pen collection to borrow. And she was like, why don't you use these paint pens to go over this image to see if they would work? And I was like, I did that. And then I was like, oh my God, I love these. And then that's when I went and I bought my own, because she had like hers would just like very limited set and mostly like ones she collected. So
Right.
there weren't a lot of colors. So I was like, I'm just gonna go out and buy my own assorted colors. And yeah, so she was the one who initially encouraged me to get stuff done to go into the gift shop.
So between her and Fred, and is there anyone else that are like a big supporter for you or mentor?
I wouldn't say mentor, but there were definitely, I really wish there was 2 people that I had given the email to, and I was hoping they would log on. But 2 other people that I wanted to mention is my stepdad and also my stepsister. I was hoping she would be here too, because they were also, especially like when I was growing up in my early life, like, so obviously I was thinking about this today, like when I was a child, as a gift, my mom would get me like the art supplies and stuff.
Right.
But as I grew, and she kind of moved away from that type of gift, into like, as I grew up, more practical stuff. Consistently every single year for my birthday or Christmas, he's always given me, like, usually it was like a gift card to the local art store, because for a lot of my adult life I lived in Langley. But now he gives me money because I don't live close to them anymore.
Right.
And then my stepsister also, because not only does she give me money, or like she's gotten me art supplies, but also because she always like doesn't let me undervalue myself as an artist. So like when I've done something and she's loved it and she's like, I want to buy that.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well, and this is kind of like very early on when I didn't know what to price myself at as an artist. And I was like selling my work to mostly family for like super cheap.
Right.
And she would be like, hey, she's like, are you sure you want to sell that to me at that price? Do you not want to charge more? And at the time I was like, no, it's okay, because like I didn't know what to charge. But I was I was kind of thinking about that today, because I have like the last two things I did for her, well, for my niece, I gave to her for free, which was some cards, which is initially what led me to doing these cutout cards. Because as somebody who's given me like a lot of support in my art journey, uh she wasn't she was struggling a bit at the time. So I was like, here. And she would have paid for it. I know she would have, but I was like, you can just have these. But we were having a talk a while ago, because I don't get a lot of support from my mom, I guess. I can say this because we're such a small group and nobody's here. Like the two other people I was gonna thank are my mom's friends, so I was like hesitant to say anything. But my mom's like not like encouraging for the arts as a career, and so like she's very negative. And so I was talking about, so she has artwork of mine hanging up in her house that I think at the time I sold to her for like $350, but it's like 30, the canvas is like 36 by 48.
Wow, huge.
And so like I was saying to her a little while ago, I was like, we were talking about my pricing and what I should charge. And I was like, that work now, I'm like, I wouldn't charge. I would say it's around like $2,000. And she was just like, well, she was like, well, not even for a professional artist would I pay that for a piece of artwork. And so I was like talking to my sister about it and her partner. And my sister's like, if you did something of that, like that size canvas, and I loved it and could, hey, my cat's fighting. He gangs up on my older cat. My older cat's like 12.
Wow.
He like just gangs up on her and like attacks her. But anyway, so like she was like, if you did a piece like that for me and I loved it and you said it was $2,000 and I could afford it, she was like, I would pay that amount. And I was like, thank you.
Yeah, but good that she
So
valued you.
yeah, so there's that. So like lifelong support. But like right before I had decided to go back to art school, my mom had some friends. Hey, it's like having children. Just a minute. He's in trouble.
Children that never grow up.
So like, so my mom has two friends. They don't have kids. And so like I was at a vending, and this is like right when I was with Fred's art group, and I was like starting to actually put stuff on canvas, which I'd never done before. And I was mostly working with pastels. And I was at a craft fair, and they came to the craft fair I was at and bought one of my very first pieces of artwork. and which is like just a little foot by foot of like just a wave, like just pastel. I hadn't like put any varnish or any like things to protect the surface at that point because I didn't know. And they paid $75. And when my mom told them that I was going back to school for a while, they would give my mom like $200 to give to me to help support me.
Aw.
And I was really hoping that they would be on here tonight because his wife's not doing very well, I don't think.
Mm.
And my mom was actually like, you should write them a letter. Like her friend, he's like, I think Giselle, which is the wife, Rain Giselle. She's like, Giselle, I guess she had major surgery last year and she hasn't been doing as well as they'd hoped. So my mom's like, you should like write them a letter. And so I actually sent them the email link and asked if they could join, and they said yes. And I was hoping they'd be here so that they could see, that they did touch my life. And because I'm, like, I'm not very good at planning, when I was graduating uni and like having my grad catalog, and they were talking about like what people we wanted to put in our grad catalog as a thank you, I didn't even think of them. I thought of like my sister and like my family and Fred, like, and then it was only after I had it printed out, I was like, I should have thought of them. And I felt really bad because I mean, they did financially try and help me out. So
Well, we'll have a link for the replay so you can give that to them and they'll get to hear it. So I'm gonna break a little bit and see if anyone watching has any questions for Erin, and then we're gonna go and look at her pieces of art. So I just want to give you guys a chance if you want to while I get this going. I'm gonna share my screen so you can unmute if you have any questions.
Hi, Erin. This is Peggy. How are you? I've really enjoyed your story.
thank you.
Where did you go to university? I may have missed that. I had to log in a little late. I'm sorry, but where did you study?
That's okay. So I went to university at the University of the Fraser Valley. Where are you located?
I'm in Michigan. In
Okay.
the US.
So I live in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. So
Okay.
it's local. It's about a 10-minute drive from where I currently live.
Well, great. Well, I'm very excited to see some of your work. I can't wait.
Oh, so I was going to show you, since I was talking about some stuff I'd done for my friend, aside from the Sailor Moon one. Yeah, I'd actually asked my friend to be a part of this, but she was busy tonight. So like, this is just some of the stuff I've done for her. I don't know if you can see it very well. And then like a lot of anime style stuff. Oh, also, since a lot of my work right now, I say right now, is heavily inspired by other people's creations. I do try to make an acknowledgement on the inside of the card to say that I am inspired by, and then I name the artist and like what work it is that inspired it.
You see the screen? Is it showing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is Erin's page here. So you want to talk about, we'll go through. I'll leave the cards right now because we've got a lot of people.
So my cutout cards aren't really on the website yet because I didn't have any really pre-planned.
So how do you even say this? Lan Wangji?
Okay, so like, this was my second attempt at oil painting. So basically, I watch a lot of Korean TV shows and Chinese TV shows. And so, I was inspired. There's a Chinese, okay, this is going to be a bit, there's a Chinese show called The Untamed. And so I actually did 2 pieces of the main. I did 2 pieces, like character series of him and the other main character, which I can get. It's just I never actually finished it.
Okay.
So
So that's inspired by the TV show then.
yeah.
So you used oils on canvas.
Yeah.
So it's a wrap canvas, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I can get the other one if you want, and you can see the other one I did. It just wasn't, I didn't ever complete it. And once like I get bored of something or I lose interest, I'm never going to go back to finish it. So it's just sitting there.
So does it have any emotional impact for you, or is it just
No.
like the cartoon or the comic or the anime?
Well, that's not anime. It's an actual TV series.
Oh, okay. Okay. This one is called Backfired. Is this the one where you're talking about you're using different things to paint?
Yeah, so this was I used like a water gun, but because it was a cheap dollar store water gun, it didn't actually it wouldn't fire through the nozzle. And or the nozzles, I guess the nozzle was broken or jammed, I don't know. And I was getting really frustrated. So I actually took like the area like where you would put the water in or the paint in, open that up and use that like the end of the gun to get that effect. And that's why it's called Backfired 2. Actually, there was 2 of them. Backfired 1 is actually at my mom's house. She liked it, so I was like, just here you go. I just gave it to her as a gift.
Huh. Did you use the same color palette?
No, Backfired 1 is actually it's just like a white canvas with red, black, and yellow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So it's a big 2 by 2, 2 feet by 2 feet. It's pretty big.
Somebody was asking, just a minute.
Oh yeah, I can't see them.
Can we see a picture, please? A picture of
But did you want to see a picture of Carol? You can unmute.
A picture of the ones you're talking about, because I'm not seeing any pictures. I'm just seeing all their faces. I'd like to see the pictures when you're talking about them.
Oh yeah. Aren't you seeing it? Are you guys not seeing it?
I can see
No.
it.
Oh, I can't.
Maybe you should just shared it with me.
No, I don't think that's even possible.
No, we can all see it. I can see it. Maybe Carol is on the website, or maybe she's not in the Zoom room. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
She's on Zoom.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, but I don't know what screen she's looking at, because she said she asked if you could get off the website.
there.
So maybe
Oh,
she's
okay,
seeing the
I got it.
website.
Yep, I got it now. Thank you for pointing that out. Yep, I got it. Thank
Oh, you
you.
got it?
Okay.
Okay, good, good. So you can see all the pictures now. Good. Yay.
Now I can, yeah. Sorry.
Okay, awesome. Oh, no worries. I'm glad you pointed out. We can at least help. So this one, Despair, that one's another oil painting?
Yeah. So it's very specific. A lot of my oils are like more portraitures, I guess. So like
self-portraiture?
Pardon?
Is that a self-portrait?
So this one is not a self-portrait. At the time I was really struggling a lot. I just been diagnosed with major depression. And I think it was the first time where I was like, I want to be able to create a very emotionally inspired piece, where like, that's not, what's the word? That basically where people can see, I like have to generalize, but like what it feels like to somebody who's struggling with these feelings, and like take that and put it on the outside, like put it in a way that like people can see it. Obviously like depression affects everybody differently, and And so, yeah,
True. It's
it
true.
actually, I learned, like, I actually started a series, and there was actually a series of 3 works. And so like in 2022, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And now looking back, I can see like what is so obvious. Because I was like, okay, I'm going to do a series of 3 paintings that like shows my struggle with mental health. So like I have this painting, and then the next painting was a painting of a woman drowning. And then the third painting was I suffer from very negative and intrusive thoughts. And so like the third painting was going to be able to just show this person like screaming. And initially this is also where some mixed media came in, because I was going to have like the words of what she was thinking coming out of her mouth. But in each painting, you can see where I gradually started to lose interest and motivation to do the paintings. Because this one I got completed, but then the next one is like half completed. And then the third one is like a third completed. Right?
Would you ever go back to them and finish them?
No, probably not.
No. Did you see what Carol said? These are wonderfully expressive. There used to be no doubt about the clarity of your paintings. They're wonderful. They are wonderful.
Yeah.
I can totally relate to this. I suffered with depression too for some time. So I definitely felt like that, what that represents.
So yeah.
So that's cool that you can express it in a painting, like how other people have felt. And I mean, you felt that way. Other people have felt the same way, right? So it's a connection.
Mm-hmm. And so like if you go to we'll go there. So this one I painted with so when I'm like painting with objects, that object with it, whatever I'm painting with, will always end up in the title somehow. So like for this one I painted with a charging cable, hence the name Charged.
Right. And that's with acrylic on canvas, wrap canvas as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly I work with just wrapped canvas.
Well, that's a big one too. You've had a lot of bigger ones.
Yeah, I mostly like to work with large scale canvases when I'm doing these more abstract paintings.
Got marbles.
So yeah, this is just with children's marbles, and mostly because I was like, if I roll marbles in paint and then like throw them across the canvas, how would it look?
Right.
Obviously, some of the motions aren't as natural because it just like didn't get very far, or it looked really weird. So then I would have to physically like do something with it. But for the most part,
well, the paint must be heavy too, so you'd have to move it, wouldn't you? Or did it flow pretty okay?
No. Also, I think the texture of the canvas probably didn't help the movement of the marble either, because it's not smooth.
Right. So you use glue with this as well?
Yeah.
Oh, because you glued some of the marbles on?
Okay, so I think this is something where I'm very much even though it's on the website, I debated whether I was gonna give it to the website, because some of the glue at the time I was using, as I wasn't using like a strong adhesive, I don't think. Or I moved on to moving a stronger adhesive, but some of the marbles had fallen off. And I was like, do I make an attempt to fix it, or do I just leave it as is? And then I was like, you know what? That's part of the artwork. They've fallen off. I'm like, just leave it as is, like.
No, I like it. I like that you did leave it, because yeah, you're right. It speaks to where you were at that time, right?
Because like I even have another canvas like this where I was using like Hot Wheels cars. And then I glued them to the canvas, but some of the Hot Wheels cars have like fallen off because I was still experimenting on what adhesives I wanted to use. And so like I debated about giving that in, but some of the Hot Wheels cars have fallen off, and I was like,
So what made you decide to use marbles? Did something inspire you, or you just get some marbles?
It's more like just it's more just like a curiosity to kind of see what kind of marks the marbles would make with the paint across the canvas. And then the next painting, my favorite color is blue, can also attest to like a mental health theme, because obviously like I have anxiety and I have all these like empty pill bottles or medication bottles, and like even some still had medication on them because until I was diagnosed with ADHD in 2022, which I'm now on like Ritalin, I would always forget to take my medication. And so like I would like go off of it for long periods of time, or like even like transitioning to a new medication, I would have like medication left and then it was just all sitting there and I was like, what do I do with this medication? And then being an artist, I was like, I want to do something artsy with it. And so this is what I did.
Cool. So is there any representation of the blue blotches? Does that
Not
mean
really.
anything, or?
It's more so I just love blue. Blue is my favorite color.
That's a good enough reason.
So yeah.
So the title is True to You for sure.
Yeah.
This is the last one.
So this I was doing, you know, some of these I debated about whether I should put them up because they're kind of from my student days. And obviously I've like progressed a lot. But I did this as a series that was it was actually in one of my student shows that I was a part of with some other classmates that were a part of my program. And this was like a statement, I think, at the time, because I had 4. 3 of them I've gotten rid of because I ultimately just didn't like them at the end. The only one I liked was this one, but it was like a statement on garbage, I guess. So like I had one on bottle caps. I had one where I did with a bottle, like a Coke bottle, and then the other one was with straws.
So is it like towards the waist of the
yeah
part of it? Like, is it environmentally motivated?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So those are the ones that Erin has on the Art Hive website. So I mean, it's already past 8, so I don't want to keep you guys. I try to make it to just an hour. So Erin will be on again because I have lots more questions to ask, but we want to keep it to an hour to be mindful of your guys' time. So if anyone has any questions,
Just a minute, I see a chat.
Before we wrap it up.
Oh, I thought there was I thought I saw somebody else had a question, but.
Well, Erin, I really enjoyed your works. Very expressive, and I love the motivation and the explanations into your thought process as you were creating them. So thank you for that.
Thank you,
well, thank you for coming on and listening to me.
Well, it was my pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for coming, and thank you, Erin, for being the artist of the week. I know it takes a little bit of guts to come on here and express yourself and kind of bare your soul a little bit. So I really appreciate it.
I bare my soul to everyone all the time. So that's not okay.
So it's no big deal for you.
Yeah, I'm constantly at work being like, thank you so much for listening to me talk about my personal problems. And they're just like so great about it. They're like, it's okay. So yeah.
Well, great work. I look forward to seeing more of you, and I can always say, well, I knew her when.
Thank you. Thanks, Peggy, for the questions and the interaction. Thank you, Carol, as well, for the interaction. Eric, I don't know if you're working. I know you are teaching art classes often, so I'm hoping you're just listening. But anyway, actually, thank you guys for all showing up. I really appreciate you coming. And next week, I'm not sure who it's going to be yet. I have to pin somebody down for next week, but We'll either do it on the Friday night at 7 or Saturday at 10 in the morning, just to kind of accommodate different people, different work schedules, that kind of thing. And we have some people in the East Coast in Quebec, so I think they're 4 hours ahead of us. So we don't want to have it too late. For them, it's like 11, 12 o'clock. So Peggy too, it's like.
Yeah,
11
I have an
o'clock.
uncle who lives in Montreal, and I was like thinking about it. I was like, maybe I should let him. And then I'm like, wait, how far ahead is he? Like, he's probably sleeping.
Well, yes,
Probably.
it's 11:14 for me, so it's starting to get a little late, but it was well worth staying up for.
Oh,
So thank you.
Thanks, Peggy.
All
Do you
right.
have a question, Carol? I saw you
No.
unmuted.
That
No?
was, well, I just wanted to say that for anime, when she paints people and their faces,
Mhm.
she gets so much expression in which a lot of people don't have that skill or ability.
Oh,
So
thanks.
that was I wish I could do that. So yeah, that was my favorite part.
Oh,
Very
thank you.
expressive. You know.
Very cool. Okay, well, thanks again, everybody, for coming and joining us. And I'll be sending out another email with the replay if you want to watch it again or share it with somebody else, or for next week when we do it again. Have
All
a great
right.
night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.